Hi, I'm Graham Glynn, Assistant Provost and Executive Director for Teaching, Learning plus Technology at Stony Brook University. And this is Innovations in Education. In our show, we feature faculty using innovative approaches and best practices in teaching and applications of educational technology that benefits student learning. In our show today, I'm joined by Cynthia Davidson from the program in Writing and Rhetoric. We will be discussing using online tools to encourage writing and critical thinking. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Graham. Nice to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you teach and where?
I teach writing, first-year writing in the program in Writing and Rhetoric here. Mostly freshmen, sophomores, some juniors and seniors, of course. And I teach mainly first-year comp, writing 101, 102, 103, those kinds of courses, where the students, it's a mandatory course sequence that students take here to fulfill their decade writing requirement.
So you've made some changes in the class. Can you tell me how the class was taught before you made those changes and what made you unhappy with it?
Well, I've been teaching in computer classrooms for quite a while. Even before I came to Stony Brook, I started doing this when I was in graduate school in the Midwest. And I didn't use it regularly, but I know that I found it was some really interesting synergies would take place when students would write we had Daedalus software at that point, and they would write on the computer, and we would do some collaborative writing. For example, I would have them model, there was a Native American poem one time. I had the students work on their own version of a chant. And it just kind of took off. They flew, they just started writing really fast and writing these really creative verses. And then when I came to Stony Brook, I took advantage. We had a really good computer classroom here. Run by some really energetic people, and I started using the computer classroom to have the students do their in-class writing, and also to respond to each other's writing.
So how does the computer make it more collaborative?
Well, the software on the computer, Blackboard, you could even use Word to do it, but Blackboard offers a couple of features. Discussion board, they offer virtual classroom, which is a kind of a real-time chat application where students can write back and forth to each other. Discussion board is a threaded discussion, and discussion board allows students to write informally to each other, to respond to each other, but it's public, so they see what they're writing. It's a conversation, the entire class sees it. And I think that informal public writing is really a great way to get students comfortable with writing, but also to be comfortable assessing audiences' needs, because when they write in discussion board, they can be told right away by other writers in the class, if there's questions about what they write, if there's something that needs to be clarified, they can address that right then and there. And that way they become more adept at addressing the needs of audiences other than themselves and their teacher, too.
So in most courses, the discussion board is a tool for communicating about what is going on in the course, the content of the course. But in your course, the discussion board is the focus of the course.
Absolutely, right.
And do you think the fact that other students are seeing their writing makes it more important to them?
I've had students tell me that. Yeah, they are intrigued by that.
And they pay more attention to the quality of the writing because they know not just the faculty member will be looking at this, but other students will.
They do.
Okay. And what other tools besides the actual discussion board do you use?
I also, on Blackboard, I use the wiki and the blog tools also. That's a newer feature. I've been using discussion board for a long time or something like it for many years, but the wiki is a collaborative site where students can post all kinds of things. They can post links, they can post text, they can post pictures, even audio-visual files, and just kind of a collage of different things. And it's a great tool for teaching research.
And a blog, how is that different from the wiki?
The blog is not more like the discussion board than the wiki in a way. It's kind of in between the two. The blog is not a blog in the sense that we usually think of a blog where one person has a blog and they write like regularly every day, every week, and other people comment on it. In the blog and discussion board, you can set it up so the entire class can post their own message whenever they want to, but they do comment on each other's posts just like you would in a regular blog. And I think the appeal of the blog tool is it's visually different than the discussion board. Discussion board, you're very aware of the fact that the discussion is threaded and that all the parts are connected together. I think the blog visually, it makes the writer's work kind of stand out more. I mean, it's like the font is bigger. You can set those fonts to be different sizes though, but it looks more like something that they're publishing, a statement. And then you can hide the comments too. If they don't want to look at the comments, they can hide them or they can show them.
So while the discussion board is a sequence of questions and answers in a conversation, the wiki tends to be like publishing a paragraph or something that can stand on its own.
I use the blog more for free writing. When they come into the class, sit down for 5-10 minutes and just write what have you been doing today, what are you thinking about, what's on your mind, kind of thing, kind of a status report like they have on Facebook. It's kind of, a paragraph about what's going on with you at that moment. And they love doing it, and the only problem I have with that is that there's often not enough time to just let them go and do that for a while because we have to move on to other things. But
so your issue is actually curtailing their writing then rather than
sometimes,
encouraging
yeah.
it.
Oh, definitely,
Wow,
yeah.
That's a big change.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that these tools on the wiki, the discussion board, the blog, don't really have a problem. Occasionally you find the student who doesn't want to be on task. Of course, that always is going to happen. But I don't have a problem with getting them to just stay on task and do the writing.
Is the nature of the writing in the electronic format different than what they would submit, for example, in a typed paper?
Yes and no. Of course, it's different because they can revise it easily. I mean, you set Blackboard up so that they can revise and delete their own posts. So they have control over that. I mean, you can also set it up so they don't, but I don't see any reason why you would want to not let them have control over the revision, unless it was a test or something where they had to get it up there, and that was it. But that's not the kind of work that we usually do.
What impact do you think this has had on the critical thinking skills of the students?
I think that it's made them more aware of that what they're writing has a target, has an audience, it's a real person. I mean, sometimes even with their teachers, people have developed a relationship with their teachers starting from the time they're very small children, and they kind of feel like the teacher will go an extra step to understand me, the teacher will understand. And a lot of time what happens in the class is, you're talking for weeks about a particular text or a project they're working on. So of course we share ideas about that stuff in the class, and we have a common kind of pool of knowledge. So someone will just start writing an essay and they'll just say, Fitzgerald said. Of course, we were talking about F. Scott Fitzgerald in a particular work. We were talking about The Great Gatsby or The Crack-Up or something that he had been, a particular text. But they'll neglect to mention the context for it, and I have to remind them that just because you and I know what you're talking about doesn't mean that you don't have to give background to your audience. When you use something like this discussion board, any kind of public forum where other people are reading it that may not have the same knowledge pool that we have in the class, it gives them more of a sense of what audience is like. The variety and the scope of any writing audience is going to be varied.
Right. How do you feel about your teaching since you've put these new innovations in place?
Oh, much better. Much better. I mean, it doesn't replace the teaching, the interpersonal part of teaching. It just enhances it, I think.
And how do you think the students feel? If you would compare the students who were just submitting written papers to the students who are now doing a lot of work online, are they happier in their work?
I think so. I think they're more confident. I think that I can't imagine going back to just having them turn in, like, say, a draft of the paper and then the revised version, and that's it. in fact, it's been so long since I've done that. Ever since I've been using computers in the classroom, that's been a part of teaching the process of writing. They do revision every day in class.